Hello, everyone. So I've finished reading this book, J.G. Ballard's Cocaine Nights, and it's the first thing I've read by J.G. Ballard, who has passed away now. Um, he was actually not recommended. I found this book sitting on a bookshelf somewhere and I picked it up. I thought it looks interesting. Cocaine Nights, the back of it looked interesting. Snort up Cocaine Nights. It's disorienting, deranging, and knocks the world of avant-garde writers into a hatted cock. That's by Will Self. Um, the possessor of a terrifying and exhilarating imagination and a national treasure. That's by The Guardian. And there's a couple of others on there. Thrillingly wired, dazzlingly original by The Independent. So I thought it looks like a good read, and then I just mentioned it to somebody who's 10 times better read than I am, and tells much better stories as well. And he said, "Oh yeah, J.G. Ballard's good." So I figured I'll pick it up and read it. It is actually really, really good. I didn't know that J.G. Ballard was also the writer of Empire of the Sun, which I didn't even know was a book, to tell the truth. I just thought it was a film I'd watched when I was younger. I thought it was really, really good. But Ballard actually grew up in Shanghai, I think, when it was under Japanese rule. And that experience, it says in an interview that's in the back of this book, showed him how people can be stripped of their power straight away, and it taught him a lot about psychology, because he was in the camp with his parents who suddenly had no power or anything. Um, so that experience gave him a bit of an interesting, fairly original as far as writers go, as far as I'm aware, perspective on people. Um, and so a lot of his books apparently are about these strange little societies that pop up, strange little cultural bubbles that pop up in places. And with this book, Cocaine Nights, it's all about how Brits go to places in Spain and they set up these little communities where essentially they're all dead. They don't do anything. They just watch TV. They don't have a culture. They don't have a community. They just live in their houses with their televisions. Um, Empty tennis courts everywhere. Uh, you know, and it's just dull, it's boring, it's dead, it's pointless. To like zombies. And one of the things the interviewer said about one of the things that comes up in the interview in the back of this book is that his writing has been extremely prescient, almost too prescient. And I thought it was interesting. The same as with the giant screens on the walls in Fahrenheit 451. Maybe I'm getting the number wrong. In these societies that are created, by these Brits in hot countries, all they do is they just sit and watch the TV and take part in, affairs and everything else, and it's crap. So the story itself is about a guy called Charles who goes to visit his brother Frank. Frank was running a health club in one of these Costa del Sols or whatever, Costa del Mar, and Frank has confessed to a fire which killed 5 people. He says he did it. Charles is sure he didn't do it, so it talks about their history a bit, and then Charles goes along and eventually starts uncovering this bizarre world where doctors are going around giving people loads of drugs to keep them sedated. There's a character, one of the main characters, a guy called, I can't remember his name now, how crazy is that? But the young tennis pro with the white teeth and the blonde hair who went to Cambridge, decided he was wasting his time, so then moved out to this sports club and teaches people Spanish and sleeps with lots of people, and all the women love him, and goes around committing little crimes. And he's got this philosophy that crimes make people look out for each other, and it creates community. So it goes hand in hand with that. And all the time, obviously, Frank's trying to figure out, was he responsible for starting this fire that my brothers confessed to? And so it's actually really interesting, really, really original, gotta say that. Some of the scenes, a friend of mine said, you can tell a man wrote it. There's quite a bit of sex in it. But it is good. It just occurred to me a few years ago, actually, that most of my favourite fiction writers now are women, which is unusual. I like a lot of female singers as well. Maybe it's because as I've aged, I'm no longer full of testosterone, so I can see things from the female perspective as well. Which goes back a bit to the book The Laws of Human Power, about the idea that we all have a masculine and a feminine side, and if we embrace both of them, we're a lot more powerful. And the gods split the masculine and the feminine side because they were scared of how powerful we'd become. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. as I often do. It's a really good book. I will read more of his stuff. Even the ending, you don't see it coming. It doesn't, and until the very last page, you don't see it coming. I remember we were discussing this book in a book club, and there was only one person who'd actually read it on time. I wasn't one of them. And one or two, maybe two people who, no, only one person who'd read it on time. And another one of the people in the book club was maybe 2 pages from the end of it and had no idea. You know, who started the fire? Do they figure it out? So the twists are brilliant. You just don't see them coming. The characters are interesting. The concept is original. The themes are good. This whole idea about, do we need crime? Do we need danger to create a community? There's also a psychiatrist who's very interesting. You're never really sure who's the bad guy until right at the end. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a good 7 out of 10. No, 8 out of 10. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if I hadn't read somebody like Natsuo Korino, who's a 10 out of 10. You know, the more you read, the more comparison points, the more reference points you've got. But I thought it was brilliant, so I haven't got my glasses with me, and I'm a bit blind, but I'll try and read you the blurb on the back. So, 5 people die in an unexplained house fire in the Spanish resort of Estrella de Mar. Estrella de Mar, I'm probably saying it wrong. An exclusive enclave for the rich. An exclusive enclave for the rich retired British, centred on the thriving club Nautico. The club manager, Frank Prentice, pleads guilty to charges of murder. Yet not even the police believe him. When his brother Charles arrives to unravel the truth, he gradually discovers that behind the resort's civilized facade flourishes a secret world of crime, drugs, and illicit sex. At once an engrossing mystery and a novel of ideas. Cocaine Nights is a stunningly original work, a vision of society coming to terms with a life of almost unlimited leisure. Yeah, that's good. Anything interesting to read you on the inside? There's an introduction. I won't bother with that. Let's keep this one short. And there's a whole lot of stuff by the same author. So the first thing he wrote was something called The Drowned World, which is about a flooded London. And he wrote this a long time ago, and now obviously there's all this talk of rising water levels, and we've seen parts of the country where houses are falling off cliffs into the sea. Parts of the country, I'm talking about the United Kingdom. I might read that one too. But certainly this is a book that's introduced me to another writer who I'd be glad to read more from. Just the same as with Natsuo Korino. I've got another one of her books now. I think more of her books are getting translated into English, given how good she is. But I'll read that one. I might take that one on holiday with me, and then I'll do a review on that as well. But I hope you enjoyed this one. Get into J.G. Ballard if you haven't read any of his stuff. It is good stuff. Maybe you'll enjoy it. There you go.